We are joined by Sean Smith, running for Congress in Kansas City in the 5th District against Emmanuel Cleaver. Sir, thank you for being here on This Week of Missouri Politics Midweek Update.
Absolutely happy to be here. Thanks.
I am tickled. I love folks that roll up their sleeves and throw themselves into the fight. Tell me why you decided to run for Congress.
Yeah, so short answer. I see the challenges that we have locally in Jackson County. I see the long-term control by Democrats and felt like I was in the best position to defeat Emmanuel Cleaver. Even though that's at the federal level, the amount of influence that's exercised from federal all the way down to state and local by the Democrats locally is pretty significant and has been failing our community for a long time.
So walk me through what do you do?
Yeah, so I've been with the same software company for 25 years.
What kind of software do you make?
Yeah, business software. So I interact. My clients these days are Midwest utility providers. So Evergy,
awesome.
Spire, Ameren.
So when I pay my bill online, you might have a little piece of that somewhere?
They pay me. Yeah. So I take care of about an $800 million business for the company that I work for. And I'm an advisor to those folks at the executive level at those companies. So I've been solving problems for people for a long time.
So you could talk. Kelton's a computer expert. You two could have you'd have the most boring show ever, but it would be like you two could be on the same level.
Absolutely. I can talk to you about USB cables, and I can talk to you about Bitcoin, and I can talk to you about.
We were just talking about USB cables.
Yeah.
I swear, Kelton. We were just talking about USB cables.
Yeah.
Yes, we were.
Well, mostly Kelton was talking about them, and I was saying where we should pay for them at.
Yeah,
that was actually the synopsis of the conversation. Was Kelton was talking computer stuff he needed, and I was talking about where to pay for it and buy it from. Yeah. So, all right. What part of the district you live
in? So I'm in the 5th District in Lee Summit. That's kind of the southeastern portion of the 5th, and we're running all the way from up north in North Kansas City and Gladstone all the way down to my corner of the woods.
I love Independence.
Independence is a fantastic time.
It's so interesting the parallel between the Boot Heel and Kansas City. When Pendergast ran the state, you know where his #1 lieutenant was? J.B. Conrad, New Madrid County. The people in Independence and the Boot Heel, if you'll notice, now they are more Democrat in Independence. But when there would be a shift up for a Republican, it would pull the Boot Heel would go up about the same percentage of votes up. Now you're going from small, but there's a tie to that community, to the Boot Heel where I'm from, that is unmistakable. Kansas City, the Boot Heel have long ties, from Victor Callahan to you have Cinder Rizzo retiring to the Searpoy family. What a tremendous legacy they have left of public service in that area.
Independence is a classic working class town, and so
Trump voters.
Absolutely the shift from traditionally Democrat to being willing to look at both candidates is definitely been materializing over the last 10 years, right?
You have used to, when the Senate seat would open up. Now the Jackson County Democrats have a way of clearing primaries, so Rizzo's primary had a primary, very competitive. Yeah. Callahan, when he ran, had a major 3-way primary when he was appointed to the seat, or maybe he won the committee vote. So he had the seat. Then the actual, when he was up for election, in the real primary, it was big. Now the primaries on the Republican side.
Yep. Exactly.
That's an amazing,
kind of an interesting primary, isn't it?
Oh yeah, we'll trust me. I'm getting your text. We will get into the thing at the headquarters, and it'll be funny. Trust me. So you ran a poll.
Yeah.
You talked about open borders.
Yep.
Even the 5th District doesn't want open borders, right?
That's absolutely correct.
You talked about how long folks have been there.
Yeah.
How long has Cleaver been there?
Cleaver's been there 18 years. If he wins this one, he'll be 20 years. He was the mayor for 8 years and in the city council. So he's been in public service for almost 40 years.
Does seem like a long time.
Yeah. And I respect that now that I'm into it myself. I totally respect the dedication that it takes to remain there that long. I also see folks that stay that long, not necessarily being in touch with their constituents to the same degree, living a life that's different than their constituents, and more importantly, just kind of losing the real energy that I think you need in order to be effective.
Got to thank my man Carl in Wentzville for this Stein, International Association of Chiefs of Police. Thank you so much, sir. Very honored to have this. Again, if you send me a Stein, come when you're in Jeff City, come by. Let me show you all of them together. If you send me a button or something, it's behind me. It's on the. We catalog it all as best we can. So please, I'm very grateful folks to send me stuff. We do keep it. And then when you're in Jeff City, please come by and I'll show you right where it's at. Speaking of Chiefs, big issue in Kansas City. I had the governor sitting in that chair last week. He never mentioned helping the Royals. He might have known his audience.
Yeah.
but he did say he was committed to making it hard for the Chiefs to leave. I saw the vote go down. Man, something about the campaign just never clicked to me.
Yeah.
Why do you think that came up short?
So several reasons, right? I'll put a significant portion of the blame on our county executive, Frank White.
He's pissed at the Royals, right?
Well, you could argue that, but
I mean, right? Am I wrong?
I don't know.
That's what I always heard. I don't know, but that's what I always hear.
I've heard that. I've heard some evidence to that effect, but more importantly, I don't know the guy's heart. What I do know is that for a couple of years,
for 1985 and the train heist,
could be that. Could be
like it's guilt.
You know, they had him as part of the organization for a while, and they let him go. I don't know. Bottom line is, irrespective of motives, I know that he deferred the conversations with them for years. So what we ended up with was a rushed process, a legislative body that was basically hearing from the teams that they were going to have to start to look elsewhere if we didn't take action. And it resulted in just sort of a cluster, right? The teams didn't put on what I would consider to be a good actual public relations campaign.
I did see Mahomes wore a blue shirt in one of the things, and I thought that was too much Royals.
Well, so there's that, but I thought for a year, if you want to change the complexion of how Major League Baseball is played in Kansas City from this tailgating experience, this very open experience, to downtown, if that's what you want, they needed to, for the year before, be taking media influencers and young kids, take them to downtown ballparks, fly them to Chicago.
Good point.
And have them come back and say how fantastic it was.
That is a businessman's approach.
They didn't do that.
You know, I actually think you need to be downtown to play baseball. I think the 81 home games makes it work better than any other thing. If you're going to put public money in something, a baseball stadium actually has 81 home games to reap a benefit from.
Yeah.
But I thought the Northland had a good pitch too.
Well, so John Sherman told me, actually after I was elected, but before I was even sworn in, we had met, had coffee, and he said the only way baseball works is for me to be downtown. And then to see him turn around and say, well, we're going to go to the Northland. There's no downtown in the Northland. There's no downtown in Kansas. They have a lot of
property to build one.
But it wouldn't be a downtown, right? It won't be downtown. They could have an entertainment district around it. I'll grant you that, but that's not what he said he needed. So I always felt like he really wanted to be in one of the spots that was downtown.
It just feels like where Arrowhead Stadium is, right on the interstate with lots of tailgating experience. Yeah. It's what people want. They don't want that. Nobody has time to take off work at 2:00, get all this stuff together, go tailgate from 4 to 7. The commitment, it's just not. And if you do once a year and to do tailgating, you need everybody to do it at the same time. I don't know that there's any baseball stadium that is a tailgating experience.
Yeah.
You come down after work at 5. You go to the bar and eat supper, like at Busch Stadium.
Yeah.
You go down to patios. I don't go to Ballpark Village because it's for Cubs fans and children. But you go down to patios, you get you a burger, hot dog, eat a couple beers, and then you go in the ballpark. And you could do that in Kansas City. And I think Kansas City is a baseball town, but I agree there was not poor planning. It just that's the market doesn't want what they're selling.
Well, and so the question is, who's the market, right? So I think that if the Royals want a downtown ballpark, it's really going to have to be Kansas City voters and Kansas City that steps up to a significant portion of that. What we have in front of us right now as a legislative body is a option to put on the ballot in November a 3/16 tax to have Arrowhead remain at the Truman Sports Complex. My guess would be that we need to do that as a way to say to the Chiefs, you have an option to stay, right? And then
don't want to lose the Chiefs.
Well, but I don't really want to lose the Royals either. The fact is, they're.
I mean, let's be honest. There's like the players' moms and 100 people that are pissed.
If
you lose the Chiefs, that's going to sting.
Yeah, but between the Royals and the Chiefs, the amount of revenue that comes back to the state of Missouri is significant. The amount of revenue that comes back to Kansas City, direct tax dollars, is signiugh. It's only Jackson County that was putting out more than we were getting back.
Bad karma for the 10/26/85 terrorist attack.
I'm not making that connection.
The Don Dinkinger call, where they stole the championship from the Cardinals. Do you think it's bad karma from 85?
No.
Well, we'll have to agree to disagree. Because my one friend said, "Oh, do we disagree?"
Bottom line is, I think Kansas City needs to put it in front of their voters if they want to pay for a downtown ballpark. Right? We'll pay for the Chiefs. Downtown can come from the whole Kansas City. You're then expanding the tax base of who's participating.
So when you go to Live by Lowe's or something, a ballpark, a hotel by the park, that's kind of, to me, the great experiences. They put a Live by Lowe's across the Busch Stadium. It's too expensive for me to stay at. But it is there to be
I got
nice.
points. I'll hook you up next time.
Okay, well, I might take you up on that. But I do, when you come to Jeff City, you come to Courtyard by Marriott, the best place. When you come to file for re-election, you're going to want to book early at the Courtyard here in town, the top hotel in Jefferson City. It's outstanding. Let's move along. When the dust settles, look into your side of knowledge and tell me how this ballpark situation goes. And I'll start, and you tell me where I'm wrong.
Okay.
I think Kansas puts a proposal on the table. I think it's probably as good as they can do, but it's not great just because the economic viability of the area can only do so much. I think it startles the Kansas City, Missouri area into doing something to make sure the Chiefs don't leave.
Yeah.
And then maybe the Royals slide across somewhere, either the Northland or across into Kansas.
Yeah.
Am I wrong?
I think it's a very real possibility that the Royals still stay in Jackson County, but in Kansas City, with a preponderance of their funding coming from the city. I think both the city and the state make more in tax revenue than what they contribute, whereas Jackson County is the opposite. To me, it makes sense to change that funding balance. So Kansas City chips in $2 million a year for the stadiums.
Arrowhead is such a great experience.
Absolutely. And we should keep it exactly where it is. And I think we have a plan to do that.
They got to upgrade it. I get that.
But we need more participation from the city and frankly from the state. State makes between $50 and $75 million a year in incremental tax revenue that's gone if those teams move across.
You're an engineer. You're a software guy, right?
I'm a logical thinker.
Yeah. Kelton's smart about computers. I don't think the two of you could design a stadium to get that loud. I think I know they designed it to be loud. A little bit of luck was involved in all great masterpieces.
Yes.
I think Arrowhead's such a great place.
Absolutely.
And by God, I watched the Raiders Chiefs on a Monday night and it was freezing cold. And I mean, the place just shook. Something in my gut. Look, let's be honest. Royals have not had a great run of success. You have a terrorist attack. Then you have that good team in 15. The memories at Arrowhead, I just think it'd be rough to lose.
Absolutely. And I think the Hemp family feels the same way, right? So I think we have both a rational way to keep them and the emotional side that puts us in a great spot to keep them. But we need to collaborate on our side of the state, across state, county, and city, and come up with a real plan.
I love the fact that you're talking about local stuff too. A lot of folks run for Congress and it's all this stuff. Like every Republican comes, I'm going to hit Joe, but Joe Biden's not going to know who a freshman rep is. He probably not going to know who most of his blood kin are at this point. I mean, he's not doing that great. But I love the fact that you're in touch with local folks because I tend to think come November, folks will be talking about gas prices and food prices.
Yep.
Folks will be talking. Everybody's got an opinion about Trump or whatever, or that Biden's lucid or not. But I do think folks will be talking about these stadiums. It's going to be a big deal.
Absolutely.
And we got to talk drama. I love Jackson County drama. Jackson County is the Kardashians of the Missouri Republican Party. I will get to this. Thank you for your messages and everything. So at the headquarters of the Jackson County Republican Party, I don't know how to do this except just to read this to you. So I'm not kidding. There was an event at the Jackson County Republican headquarters where the cops showed up. I'm not kidding. The cops show up, and I'm just going to read to you. On 6/15/24 at 14:51 hours, I'm not in military, and I'm not good at math. Kelton, I think it's in the afternoon probably. Officer McCoy, Officer Logan, and I were dispatched to 1140 Southwest 40 Highway in regard to an assault and verbal disturbance. Upon arrival, I witnessed 5 to 6 people outside of the Jackson County GOP building, all highly agitated. That I believe. I was contacted by Miss Carolyn Canton, who I actually know is a nice lady. I've met her a few times. I go out to the Jackson County Republican Club out at Lakewood, and she's there a lot, and I've got to know her. Who advised Mr. David Martin had just assaulted Miss Teresa McBride, and Mr. Martin locked himself inside the GOP building and had taken a female volunteer hostage. Okay, so we have police called. We have an allegation of assault and a hostage standoff. I mean, you can't make that up, right? If I told you this story, you'd be like, oh, Faughn, you're full of crap. There's no way.
Yeah.
So he contacted Mr. Martin through the glass door of the GOP building. He was highly agitated, and the volunteer, later identified as Judy Qualkenbush, was also visibly distraught. I was able to convince Mr. Martin to open the door, and Officer McCoy went inside to speak to Mr. Martin. while I escorted Miss Quackenbush outside. That's a great last name, by the way. I mean, that's
Absolutely.
This story deserves a last name like Quackenbush in there.
And she's a great lady that has actually volunteered and helped on my campaign quite a little bit too. So.
Well, I don't know her, but I know Carolyn. I've always liked Carolyn. I know David Martin a little bit. Like, I'm not like I'm surprised by this story. This is obviously wait till we get to the part about the shitter being full. But he has a little bit of a quick temper. It's fair to say.
Yeah, I've not seen that. I have always thought that he was a little bit of a different character.
Yeah, that's a better way to put it.
He's run for a lot of different spots.
Yeah,
he's persistent. I'll give him that.
And has a following.
Yeah,
I mean, there's just no
little bit.
So, Miss Qualkenbush, am I saying that wrong?
I think you're saying it right.
All right, Qualkenbush advised she was not concerned about her safety, and she did not feel as though Mr. Martin was holding her against her will. Well, that's nice. I mean, so we take the hostage part out because it was getting legit level quality comedy here. She was upset due to the circumstances and wanted all the nonsense to end. Okay, Miss Qualkenbush advised all to start over a maintenance issue, and one of Mr. Martin's guests clogged the toilet, and the toilet flew over the meeting area. Water and excrement, which for those in West Butler County, that's poop, had bled into the building's carpet. And as a representative of the building, Ms. Qualkenbush needed to update one of the responsible members, which, okay, the story doesn't yield to that, but all right. She advised she contacted Ms. McBride and Ms. Caton about the issue and responded to the scene. Once they arrived, an argument ensued over how the carpet needed to be cleaned and ended when the police arrived. So this is a shitty situation just from the jump. Yeah. I mean, Ms. Qualkenbush advised she did not witness any assault take place, but advised the argument spilled out in the parking lot and she remained inside the building. So while I was talking to Ms. Qualkenbush's statement, a female pulled into the parking spot next to us, interrupted my interview, advised me she was leaving the scene. She advised I want to talk to her, I need to speak to her now or call her at a later time. I told her I was in the middle of the interview and would be there in a minute. The female backed her vehicle out of the scene and left without identifying herself, providing contact information. Wow. Brian Lankard, my man, you earned your pay that day. I mean, dealing with the drama. So then he spoke to Mr. Martin. He said it was a barbecue situation. He said he was cleaning up the mess when Miss McBride and Miss Cantor left the scene. He said the demand he paid to have the carpets professionally cleaned. Well,
seems like a reasonable request.
Yeah, I mean, you want to do the best you can on site, but if there's poo, I do think that calls for one of them big steamer dudes to roll in. I mean, you know, I kind of see their point. Arguments ensued. During the argument, Mr. Martin attacked by the two women and their husbands, verbally, I think he means berated them and his campaign. Mr. Martin said all this was a plot to ruin his campaign to the fact that Miss McBride was supporting his opponent. Which opponent? He's got two of them.
Yeah, I don't know.
He's got Joe Nicole.
Could be Joe Nicole or Aaron.
He stated they were trespassing at his event and wanted to move from the premises. So this officer, can you imagine? Like he shows up into this drama. He's got to be like, white people, you know. So he goes outside, and then they say that they allege Martin punched him in the back. Then Martin, obviously, he says during this thing he was irate and pissed off, like I don't even know how many times, but multiple times. The officer feels like he needs to make sure that everyone knows Martin was ticked. He said there was a big plot to ruin his campaign. Now, you ran for office. I kind of don't think Brian Lankard with the Blue Springs Police Department gives a damn about his campaign,
right?
Or would risk his career to be part of an intricate plot to ruin the campaign,
right?
But then it goes great because he does this, this is classic stuff. I see my daughter; she wants to come in. She's giving me the hard look. There's no cops in here. She's raised by me. She doesn't trust cops. Although I do trust that Brian Lankard is not part of the intricate conspiracy to influence the Senate district.
Seems highly unlikely. Yeah.
So then Martin does the thing that, look, I don't know. Listen, Missouri, listen to me. Let me give a piece of advice. As a person who's been arrested many times, don't ask to speak to the cop supervisor. That's not going to help you. Don't be Karen. David, I like you. I know you. And Missouri, listen to me. If the cop's on the scene and he's not like taking you off or beating you, don't ask to talk to the cop supervisor. It's a bad, a low percentage shot. Kelton, trust me. You're an honest man. How many times have you been arrested?
0.
Well, you're a rhino. You're not even a real Republican like I am. Trust me. If the cop is there, don't ask to talk to the supervisor. If you're getting arrested, you can talk to the supervisor back at the place they're taking you, right? They're taking you to jail, so don't ask to talk. It's a low percentage shot. I'm going to tell you, it does not go like this where you're like, I need to talk to the supervisor. And then the cop's like, oh, well, hold on, sir. Never mind. Let me just delete this. And thank you for being here. That's not how the story ends.
Yeah.
This story ends with him giving him a summons for for an assault. And then the boss does show up. And of course, what does the supervisor cop do? He backs up the other cop. Do not ask to talk to the supervisor. You'll get your lawyer can talk to the supervisor. That is not going to help you. It's going to get you a police report just like this. So at the end of the day, by the time they're done, they had Miss Cantot and McBride had locked the scene. So the officers left. They also alleged, see, this is what happens to you right here. When you ask to talk to the cop supervisor, number one, the cop, the subordinate cop, does not say, oh, never mind. If you want to talk to the supervisor, let me get you on with your day, sir. I apologize. That's not how that works. And number two, the supervisor shows up. And what does he do? He says he smells odor as though Mr. Martin had been drinking. And it gets worse. And he advises him not to drive away and to get a ride. That is how it ends. When you ask to talk to the cop supervisor, ask David Martin. It ends with this narrative getting worse. It does not get better. I mean, it seems like a lot of drama over not that big a deal, right?
Yeah, a clogged toilet should not generate that, right?
It's just the internal fighting, right?
Well, so the fact that two members of the executive committee, so Teresa and Carolyn are members of the 4-member executive committee of the Jackson County GOP. They live nearby. They showed up because obviously something had gone wrong. And they said, hey, okay, take care of it, clean it up, get a carpet cleaner in here, David. That seems reasonable. If I borrow your car and I put a dent in your car.
Or you poop on the floor.
It's my job to fix up your car, right? Or if you and I go drinking and you puke in my seat, you better clean it up, right? That's adulthood.
My buddy McKenna has this great joke where he comes in 2 a.m. late. Nikki, who is his wife and just a wonderful person, she goes, what is all over your shirt? It's like, if you've been out drinking, you vomit all over yourself. He goes, no. He pulls the $10 out of his pocket and he said, well, my buddy puked on my shirt. He gave me $10 for the cleaning bill. And she goes, oh, well, it goes from he's a dirty dog to this great guy. Well, then McKenna, she said that, why is there 2 $10 bills? He goes, oh, he crapped in my pants too.
That's great.
Nikki's a saint, by the way. Also, I'll just tell you, you would talk, if you're watching this in the great Northwest on United Fiber, the best fiber, the best rural broadband in the state. If you go to Congress, hopefully you'll be a voice to help us with some rural broadband.
Absolutely.
And when you
working on that in Eastern Jackson County as we speak.
When you're making the case, send them up to Savannah to United Fiber, the absolute tip-top operation in the state. There's a lot of good co-ops doing fiber and rural broadband. None of them doing it as good as United Fiber. St. Joe wants them to come into the city. That's how good it's going.
Awesome.
So let's talk about some Border. You just seem like a good dude. I like the fact that you're talking about local stuff.
Yep.
You disagree with Cleaver on the border. You're not saying Cleaver's a bad guy. You're saying 20 years, probably too long.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yep. And honestly, for the last 10 or so, I would say he's been kind of coasting, right? People can observe that. And then that's what happens. I mean, even if I don't win, I have done my community a service by running a competitive race against him. Right?
And
it's pushed him to do more.
And I agree with you on that. So, even if you're unsuccessful, I think Kansas City's better. And I think Cleaver's operation is better.
Yeah.
Because he's going to have to go out and visit with folks. And look, I don't think, look at who you are. We have 8 members of Congress. If they are not pushed, they do not see their constituents as much.
Right.
That is just the truth.
Yep.
Now, I think we have a terrific delegation. We're losing a giant in Blaine Luchtemeier, an absolute giant. But I'll tell you, I think when Blaine had an opponent, even Blaine, who I hold in the highest of high regard, if you've got to go talk to your folks, it's better.
Yeah.
And I agree with your take 100% there.
I've had 2 interesting things. So Cleaver has been a civil rights icon, right? He was part of the movement. Tons of respect for him for that. I was at an event that was the Black Archives Museum in Kansas City. Cleaver was the honoree, but he didn't show up. Like he was getting an award that night. And then Juneteenth parade. I was invited as a county legislator. I showed up. I was the only
is Juneteenth a thing?
Juneteenth is a thing, sure.
Okay. Yeah. I talked to a buddy of mine, his law office closed it. I'm like, why?
Yeah.
He goes, it's a holiday. I was like, what goofy state holiday? And he's like, no, it's Juneteenth. And I'm like,
yeah,
that's not a real holiday.
Yeah.
I'm just being honest with you. That's go to work. Kelton, we're not off for Juneteenth, are we?
Not today.
No, not today.
Yeah. I think a day set aside to recognize that was when the last of people were emancipated in Texas makes sense, right? Honor that day. We move forward.
I'm with you.
Thumbs up and
your company work today?
Actually, my company is off today, and the county is off today, and the state is off today. So it's more and more recognized, and that's an evolution. That's all right.
Well done. I'm happy that you win that argument. I totally disagree with him, by the way, but hey,
and we can still be friends.
Well, totally. If people want to say Juneteenth's a holiday, that's fine. I have no beef with Juneteenth being a holiday. If you ask me, no, it's not a holiday. It's not a holiday at the Missouri Times. I mean, it can be a holiday that you celebrate, but it's a holiday you celebrate at work.
So I got a couple small businesses on the side too. It's not a holiday for my small businesses. They're 24/7, 365.
Yeah. That's dead. There you go. But now reality just rolled in. So the AG's race, you got Bailey, Montgomery County war hero, gonna be the guest Sunday on This Week in Missouri Politics.
Yep.
Then you got Will Scharf, brilliant dude from New York. He's got the Trump lawyer thing, which is good. I didn't really know what Will was going to campaign on, except probably nitpick something out of Bailey, which is the way it goes,
Yeah.
But the Trump lawyer thing is good stuff.
It is. I'll say this though about Bailey, right? Appointed, wasn't so sure about him, a little worried at first. He picked up the mantle from Schmidt really well, and in a very personal way. One of the biggest problems, one of the biggest issues we've had in Jackson County has been this property tax thing. And he is doing something that no AG has done before. We've seen problematic assessments before. The AG is suing the county, me as a defendant, and all the legislature, Frank White, Gail McCann Beatty, our assessor, who are a disaster, by the way. And I'm testifying on behalf of the AG.
I know Gail, and it doesn't, I have no beef with Gail whatsoever, but it, to be honest, doesn't feel like it's going that great.
Yeah, the expertise you need to be an assessor with 100+ people on staff is very different than being an appraiser or a politician.
There's two types of assessors, right? There's assessors that work for the taxpayers, assessors that work for the school district, and you pick one, right? And that's just the truth.
Yeah.
And I know probably 50 assessors by name, probably have 30 in my phone, and I'm telling you, I can tell you which one's which. They work for the school district or they work for the taxpayer, because you can't work for both. Over time, what happens is the school district says, whoa, he knew computer? Oh, yeah. Oh, you need us to pay for you to go to this conference? And I think what happened in Jackson County was this. The county, before Gail got there, allowed them to hire a consulting firm, but they allowed the school district to hire the consulting firm to assess whether the tax rates were fair and right. Let me just give you a astounding knowledge guess as to what that study came back the school paid for. Come back that you need to pay more property taxes.
Shocking, right?
Yeah, stunning. Who would have thought? It's like a poll that, oh no, who'd have thought? But the study, you give me 20 minutes and a cocktail and I could have gave you the same study. We want more money. And then that's what it came back at. And I think that is a major, if you're going to view the assessors as legitimate assessors, they should be barred from taking studies, money, computers from the folks that benefit from their doing their job.
Yeah. Well, Gail is the only assessor in the state of Missouri that's not elected. She's appointed.
Ask the folks in St. Louis County. They ain't real thrilled about theirs either.
Yeah, I'm not saying that elected solves all the problems, but the bigger problem, and I'm coming at this again as a business executive, a guy that's helped companies with software implementations and major redesigns of their business for decades. And I will say that 2 months in office, sitting there listening to their reports as they were implementing this new software and going about this comprehensive reassessment that hadn't been done in 20 years, it was very obvious that there were already problems, things that other people wouldn't think is a major issue. When you tell me on a big software project that you're running a little late and you're not going to have as much time to test as you wanted, that's for other people, they're like, oh, that doesn't sound good. For me, that's like sirens and bells are going off and I'm trying to find out more. And the reality was the company that we hired didn't meet all their deliverable deadlines. That resulted in a erroneous assessment process. And my issue has become, I've seen tens of thousands of people that were inappropriately assessed, huge increases without following the law. And I'm just proud of AG Bailey for jumping into the fray and saying, we're going to do something about it.
I don't even think people know. When you get your tax bill, you can go for the BOE and say, this is bullshit.
We had 54,000 appeals. That's consistent with what Gail estimated in the plan that she had to submit to the state tax commission.
Man.
She said we were going to have 60,000. So it was even a little less, but the resources weren't there. And the number of administrative barriers that the BOE, and so the BOE really needs to be an independent organization from the assessor. And in Jackson County, In Jackson County, they're all appointed by the county executive, and the assessor's department provides most of the training to the BOE every year and even schedules the BOE's docket. So you can't get an appointment with the BOE if the assessor's pissed off at you. That's wrong. And that's some
charter thing in your county? Or?
It's some of the reforms we have to make, right? The reality is the state law kind of provides general guidelines. Absolutely, he will be, absolutely.
I mean, he'll be for changing it.
For changing it.
See, I think that is.
Yeah. So I've got a series of reforms written. I'm calling it I've got this property taxpayers bill of rights. I love when
local people that have been in local government run for office like this.
Yeah.
Because you actually, and there's nothing wrong with running for your first office at the state level or whatever. But when you run it local, you actually have to solve problems instead of just solve blame.
And that's what I'm doing.
And that I respect that.
And I don't see a lot.
Alexander, you were right about this, old boy. I'm gonna tell you, I wasn't sure, but you were right about this.
Yeah.
All right. So I because I want to help. There's a thing called the Federal Society, which is a bunch of Washington people, and they're like locusts. They come to your state just to destroy stuff, and they're generally just a pain, and no one likes them unless you're the out of state person getting money from them.
They write some smart stuff sometimes, I think.
Well, I wish they would write it in Washington and stay in Washington.
Yeah.
Or I wish you'd be able to shoot them when they try to cross the river in Mississippi. General Line should have been. So the party of the working people, right? The Republicans are now the party of the working people.
Absolutely.
I have respected Holly's work on being friends of the Teamsters. Eric Schmitz have been a firefighter guy for a long time. And I think that's great. I love the fact that if you look, the carpenters followed the firefighters, and the rest of the AFL-CIO endorsed Kehoe. I big fans of what labor's doing. But now the party of the working man has the Washington people come in to host a debate, which you can imagine is going to be the biggest kiss-ass affair since that one gal that wrote a book about Obama was the moderator for a debate with Obama, right?
Yeah.
So they're going to, and guess where they're going to do the debate? The Working People's Party is going to do where they're going to do their debate.
I've got to guess it's some highfalutin spot.
It would be the Ritz-Carlton in St. Louis.
Yeah.
So here, dear Federalist Society, I have right here with me, I've took the time because I want to be helpful. You'd all know me. No, I'm the most helpful cat around. I put together a list of 10 locations that I think might be better for your highfalutin Washington asshole meeting than the Ritz-Carlton in St. Louis for the Working People's Party, right?
Yeah.
Number one, the Cottage Inn in Poplar Bluff. It's outstanding. They have Christmas lights up, but they're not Christmas lights because they're up all year round. AstroTurf carpet. You're going to love the Cottage Inn in Poplar Bluff. High Street Pub in Jefferson City. Same decorated motif right around the corner here from the world headquarters.
I know it well.
Outstanding place. Chumley's in Trenton. My buddy Brad Chumley, he's a commissioner. He's a county commissioner. Good dude. Chumley's in Trenton's right there by the courthouse. I'm telling you, these are all places also that all the federal people probably get their ass whooped if they showed up in. That would just be an added bonus. Chumley's is a great place in Trenton. Sharp Corner Tavern in Herman. You ever been to Herman?
I've been to Herman a lot.
Oh, you know it. Sharp Corner Tavern. Awesome. Now, there is indoor smoking, and I tell you, I've become soft. I'd go in a bar and I wouldn't even notice cigarette smoke, right?
Yeah.
But now I go to no places where you can smoke inside. And so when I go into places like the Sharp Corner Tavern, look, the smoke is heavy. You were going to leave with some cancer. There's just no other way.
You a whiskey guy?
I tell you what, I wish I was man enough to say yes. I am a rock gut dollar store Captain Morgan guy.
Okay.
But I drink it by the gallon.
The reason I ask about whiskey is because one of my favorite distilleries, Wood Hat Distillery off I-70.
Oh, yeah.
Right outside of Herman. The guy's an awesome guy, and he makes corn-based whiskey. And it's
got a sweeter taste, doesn't it?
It does. And he said something really important to me one time. He said, if you don't think that the corn and where it comes from, because he uses all these legacy corns that have been here forever, if you don't think that the corn matters, go try to make wine out of different kind of grapes and tell me it doesn't matter. Same thing. But spectacular place, awesome story, good little entrepreneur.
Love the hat tip.
And you should take up some whiskey, put a little ice in it, and you'll ease in.
Well, if it was a distillery, you can go try it out, right?
Yeah.
So a little tasting.
Absolutely.
I like that. Carl Richards, 4th Street Bowling Job, and I'll say it, my Ron Richard. And you get Weston over there flapping his gums, and now you got all these Washington people here. Carl Richards, 4th Street. It's in Joplin. They have a lot of space in there. You could host a debate at Carl Richards 4th Street Bowl. Ron Richards, his father is Carl Richard.
Yeah.
Ron Richard, legendary Missouri statesman. It's his place. The Anvil Restaurant and Saloon in St. Genevieve, great place. I mean, If you actually want to meet the folks that are going to vote in this election, you have the Anvil in St. Jen. Awesome. This is for Missouri historians will appreciate this one. D&G Tavern in Skidmore. Kelton, do you know why D&G Tavern in Skidmore would be the most interesting place?
I don't. Enlighten me, please.
So in Skidmore, there was a gentleman, a town bully, just an awful person by all accounts. Hated this guy. So he had just been a terror to everyone. And his one of his kids had stolen something from one of the most beloved men in town. Nice older gentleman, obviously couldn't defend himself. So this guy comes to bully him and say, "Why are you calling the cops on my kid?" The shots ring out. And there's a buddy of mine from that part of the state that says it had the biggest pool table in the history of Missouri because there were 38 people that said when this guy was killed and the cops came, 38 people said they were hiding under the pool table. They didn't see anything. To this day, the murder is unsolved because nobody saw anything. This guy was such an ass that the entire town didn't see a thing. So you could see why I want to take my friends to D&G Tavern in Skidmore. It's not open yet, but the metal building is still there. And I bet you, we could find, if you need, just call me, 202. You can call me. I'm just a regular Missouri and white trash hillbilly. But if any of you fancy Washington people want to call me, I can bet I can get the D&G Tavern in Skidmore open just for you all for about an hour and a half. And nobody might see anything, never see anything. Might still have the biggest pool table in the state there. Marquardt's Landing in Washington, Missouri. Marquardt's Landing is outstanding. I'm telling you, I had Ray Hartman in here this week. He's running for Congress in Franklin County. Marquardt's Landing, Kyle Marquardt, they're not kin, but the same name as their state rep here in the Capitol. Love it, right there on the river. Coconuts at the lake. It's summertime.
Yeah, I was hoping you were going to get to one at the Lake of the Ozarks.
Well, yeah, I imagine having all these uptight Washington people in their little suits, dress all prim and proper.
At the swim-up bar?
Yeah. And
absolutely.
And what would be more relatable to people to put all you Washington jerks in your little suits in the swim-up bar to have this debate.
Yep.
And, if a microphone dropped, things happen.
Party on the bottom and suit on the top. Right?
I like that. I like that. The last one, so I actually messed up this list when I posted on Twitter. I put the Roper Saloon in West Plains, which is actually closed. My buddy David Goen from West Plains let me know. He recommended the Little Hut. So I'm kind of going out on a limb there from David, but I think any of those places would be great for you guys. The Ritz-Carlton is a hilarious spot for the working party people to be housing their debate, but it's kind of fitting because I think their candidate is the Manhattan guy. He probably would feel more at home at the Ritz-Carlton than, at Carl Richards 4th Street Bowl in Joplin.
Right.
My solemn oath to you is to be helpful any way I can and to get you out of the state as fast as possible and hope you never return. So tell me, what needs to happen for this campaign to come together? Money?
Yeah, money for sure. Not a surprise that I'm outgunned by a 9-term incumbent. Sure. And honestly, I've self-funded every race that I've run before this. This is beyond me. So I have a little bit of money that I've tossed in myself, about $100K by the end of the month. That's about, 5% of what I need to win, realistically. I've got some good grassroots contributors. I've got a few big contributors, but money would be huge. The other thing is just...
You got to go to Washington and get them to believe you can win.
And that's what I was just going to say, viability, right? So the poll that I did showed me neck and neck with him. It had a 5% plus or minus margin of error. It was internally done. But to me, I'm right in the race. And what was really astonishing to me is when I dug into the numbers a little bit, he had a 55% negative. 55% of people were either absolutely or somewhat likely not to vote for him.
That's a trend.
That's shocking.
Of people that just want to vote against the incumbent.
Right.
I think that is, I don't think that's necessarily even indicative of Cleaver. I think that is around the country.
Right.
Whoever's in office, folks are very willing to give somebody else a try.
Yep. I'm seeing a lot of that. And Jackson County, one thing I'll say is that we're in a great spot as far as kind of the underdog. You saw the Chiefs and Royals spend $6, $7, $8, $9 million on their campaign. The opposition spent about $200,000. And you had a pretty, solid indicator that people were not happy with what was presented. So money is not buying elections. We had a use tax in November of 23, that I opposed. I opposed it with my Facebook followers, and nobody spent a penny. It was just pure grassroots opposition. There was several $100,000 from the trade unions and other places that were on the yes side. Voters overwhelmingly defeated that. So we are seeing people that are capable of learning and being informed without necessarily having to have the money on their side. I hope that I don't have to resort to that, but that's kind of my strategy at this point, is to be very grassroots. I've got hundreds of volunteers, people out dropping lit for me, people out making things happen. Now it's a matter of just keeping them supplied, honestly. So,
well, I have to say, thank my buddy Alex Holt for setting this up. I enjoyed the visit very much. It's very nice to meet you. Again, you find people that have served in local government. You're trained in state government to fix the blame, unless you're on appropriations or something. For the most part, it's about fixing the blame of whatever on somebody else. Local government, you have to fix the problem.
Yeah.
I love your idea about the BOE. I think that is, I bet you, first of all, I think it's startling where people don't know there's a BOE. And two, the fact that rules are gamed against them.
Yeah.
But again, to me, the assessor should be independent. It should not be an arm of the schools. And that's frankly what they've become in some cases.
Yeah.
And when you're letting the schools pay for the study, which, trust me, Missouri, listen to me. If someone says, I have a study, it is code word for I have some bullshit made up to support what I wanted to say anyway. Or if the study came back and they didn't like it, they wouldn't tell you about the study. So trust me, when someone starts a sentence with Missouri, I have a study, just immediately roll your eyes. Take another drink of beer. You're not missing anything. I tell you, I think those are very common sense things. And I'm glad to hear my buddy Manny is hearing that out, because I think a lot of the issues people don't set with. But I think in St. Louis and Kansas City, in their gut, they know these property taxes are screwed up.
Yeah.
And I don't think they feel like they're getting the requisite services for that property tax. And the worst thing you can have happen is have the state come in and start monkeying with it. Handling it internally. You're going to get such a better quality of result than you will if you come to the Capitol and have them start screwing with it.
yeah. So, and we have a lot of latitude to reform things, even making our assessor elected. So we're going to go ahead and try to do that at the county level. Right now, it's in the state constitution. If you're between 600,000 and 700,000, you have the option of having an appointed assessor.
Why does
Jackson
Frank White
County's-
not like the Royals?
That's a great question.
There's a story though. Is it he was an announcer?
He had a couple different roles with him, one in the media office, one in a coaching role, I think, and those didn't work out. So maybe there's some resentment there. There's definitely a possibility. I really try hard not to ascribe things to people's,
But I mean, there's
heart.
a local story behind why.
Absolutely.
He
There's a lot of people that think that that's absolutely the case. I just try to set that aside and just think, how do we forget the egos, forget the stories, forget the background? How do we solve the problem?
Like he was never going to agree to anything.
Or it was a brilliant negotiating strategy that went terribly, terribly wrong.
Well, by definition, that's not a brilliant negotiating strategy. That's kind of a bad strategy, right? I mean, John, thank you so much for coming in. Running for Congress in the 5th Congressional District, uphill fight, but I cannot tell you how much I enjoyed the visit, sir.
We are in the game. Go to SeanSmithForMo.com.
Awesome. Sean Smith from Mo, thank you for joining us. We will see you Sunday. Andrew Bailey, Travis Smith, and maybe one other state Senate candidate. We're going to actually start taking you from the studio here to some of these folks that can't drive in from West Plains to be on the show. But I want to talk about some of these Senate primaries on the ground. We're going to start trying to touch all those as we do our F-150 campaign tour. We're going to take Kelton. Can we have Kelton Cam? Are we going to take the show to them?
Yes.
Oh, he said yes. We're going to hold him to it and see. This could be the best show we've ever done or the worst coming up.